Hello and welcome to the FDT-TV podcast. I've actually got it right for a change, which I'm actually quite proud of myself for. You are here listening to the Premier League podcast, and that is awesome alliteration, if I may say so. Again, something I'm very proud of and something I learned on my Word of the Day toilet paper today. Yes, we are back talking things Premier League. There's a lot that's happened over the course of the weekend, a lot coming up in the course of the week. We are sitting here on a Monday night with the Ballond'Or currently being run as we speak, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Some VAR stuff, loads to get through, so let's crack on. I am joined, as always, by the very lovely Mr. Ian Barker. How you doing, Mr. Barker?
I'm good. I'm good. Not in football terms, but in everything else, he's really good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Fine.
Excellent. So, we'll kick off. Actually, we'll kick off with a quick recap of this weekend's football. I'm sure, obviously, a lot of people will know. Ian's a West Ham fan. I'm an Arsenal fan. Both played at the weekend in our respective competitions. But I'll let you start off this week. So, West Ham played Everton at home, I believe.
Was at home?
Yeah. Do you want to talk us through the game?
It was wet. I could have gone because there was loads of empty seats. But you would expect, even with the poor form that we've had this week, us to dominate a game. So, starting lineup, you go, oh, actually, this looks quite good. Although Emerson was out for the game with suspension, picking up 5 yellow cards. We had Paqueta, Mohamed Kudus, Jared Bowen starting in midfield with James Ward-Prowse and Alvarez. And you think with that midfield, we should have dominated possession, controlled the game, been full of skill and excitement. And it was for the first 8 minutes. And then we were shit. So essentially, Mikel Antonio, I love him. Obviously, just here is a signed Mikel Antonio shirt. So I might, if I get around to it, swap them around because this dickhead has left for a shit team. But back to the game. Everton done what needs to be done against West Ham, which is play simple football. They scored a goal and controlled the game. It wasn't even as if we were able to sort of try and get ourselves back in it. And it was really frustrating. It's the third loss in a week. I think we've got Brentford, Arsenal, Chelsea next. No, we haven't. That's a lie. We've got Brentford, Arsenal, Chelsea, Olympiacos, I think, are our next 4 games. I can't see us picking up a point in any of them. I might be wrong about the Chelsea one. It might be Brentford, Arsenal, Olympiacos.
Arsenal's in the cup. We don't play you till after Christmas, I think.
Yeah, so we've got so it must be it's Brentford or Arsenal Wednesday.
Yep.
Then Brentford at the weekend.
Yep.
And then Olympiacos on Thursday.
Yep.
I can't see us picking up any points and any win. So that'd be six losses on a trot, and I don't know of any manager in the Premier League that survived 6 losses on a trot in all competitions. Got to be honest. David Moyes will probably pick something out of the bag and we'll beat Olympiacos and then get drummed by Luton or Burnley or whatever. But it's one of those that we started the season so promisingly. The counter-attacking football was good. The new players we brought in, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, Kudus, when he was playing, was coming on with excitement and skill and whatnot. And David Moyes has sucked that out of them. Now you need to sit back and play long balls. So Kudus started for the first time in the Premier League, I think, and was our most exciting player. He was going for it, but he can't do it on his own. Antonio he wasn't at the races. And we got beaten by a silly goal again. Naya Fagerd is absolute dog shit. I don't know how he starts. I don't know, because we brought in Mavropanos, who used to play for you, didn't we? I don't know how he's not playing in front of him. I don't know how Ogbonna's not playing in front of him. He's just so sloppy. He's got a bit of pace about him, so he does get back and make an interception every now and again. But he's such a liability. It's like next to Zuma, who could have had the world at his feet, didn't he, before he had that horrible leg injury at Chelsea, or while he was on loan at Everton. and he's not half the player he was last season. If I'm honest, I think he needs to get back to kicking cats. I think that will help him out. But I don't know where we go from here, because we've got the oldest squad in the Premier League. We've got a manager who has sucked the life out of a team that was playing really well, even though it was on the counter attack. And when you're winning games, it doesn't matter that you've only got 26% possession.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're losing them, and you're getting obliterated by a team that's struggling against everybody else, it's a bit embarrassing. And it's very quickly, we've gone from euphoria of winning Europa Conference League, that rolling into this season and starting really well, to, oh, good, same old shit. We've brought in some really good players and we've ruined them already. And the atmosphere around the club is turning already. Whether that means we will make a change sooner rather than later, I don't know. Moyes is in his last year of his contract. I think we all well know on this podcast I have been a big proponent of him over the years. There are times where I've said enough is enough. Thank you very much, but goodbye, because you can't take us any further. And I just hope we don't... I hope we can change it before it's too late and our Europa League hopes of knockout football are gone and we're too far out the competitions to even try and get European football next year.
Yep.
No, because if we perform like we did in the league this year again, we're not going to win Europa League this year. There's too many big teams in it. A miracle would have to happen for us to do that. And I think that would be us done pretty much. We'll be back to languishing in a relegation fight for a long time, which is a shame. But yeah, it wasn't good football. Fair, and they were the better team on the day in a very wet London, and they won. Deserved all 3 points.
So, what do you think should be the case if over the course of the next 3 games, as you've just mentioned? So you got Arsenal, Brentford, and Olympiacos. If we
lose them all, it's got to go. It's a results-driven business, and if he'd come in and it was really dreary and we'd lost the last 5 and he's come in and this is his first couple of games, then you go, you've got to give him some time.
Mm-hmm.
But he's now in his 3rd season. So he's had time. It's his squad. He's brought in the players. He's been very picky about players that he's brought in.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the excuse? Because you've brought in all these good players. Paqueta and Man City were after because of his skill on the ball. But he's out for the next game. Alvarez is a hard tackling midfielder. He's out for the next game. Both suspensions on 5 yellow cards. But Paqueta is our most proficient tackler. He's an attacking midfielder. Why is he winning the most balls? And it's not a case of he's winning them high up the pitch. He's winning them in our half. But I think if we lose him, he's got to go. I can't see there being any argument for keeping him.
Okay, on that basis then, if you had to replace David Moyes, would you look for someone as a caretaker for the rest of the season and hope that they keep you up? Or is it going to be the case of, no, we look for a replacement now?
I think the size of our club and where we're at, you have to look for a replacement. If you can't draw a decent manager in, being still able to qualify for Europa League knockout stages and still close enough to claw in European football next season, with the squad we've got that's the thing. Bar a sort of a legacy goalkeeper to carry on after Areola's gone, because he could play for a little while, but he's not top tier. And a striker. When you look at our midfield, we've got a lot of players that people want. Do you know what I mean? If you put Ballon on a transfer list, 5 or 6 clubs coming in for him. Same with Paqueta, same with Kudus, same with James Ward-Prowse. We've even Souček, I think you'd still have a number of suitors for. We've got a decent squad with some quality in there. We just need a manager to come in that plays on the front foot, that wants to play sort of that attacking tiki-taka football. And the one person, because I know you're going to ask, the one person who's been linked with us is Jose Mourinho.
Right.
And And my thing with that is, yes, we would win something, but we're going to be playing the same style of football that we're playing now.
Yep.
I can't see him being expansive because he hasn't. And people go, yeah, but he did it at Chelsea that first season. But we haven't got the abundance, the quality of those players that were head and shoulders above 99% of the league. We should be top 10. We should definitely be fighting top 8. On a good season, top 6. On a really good season, I think we could push top 4. But you've got to cut out the silly mistakes. You've got to cut out the games where you lose 1-0 to Everton at home, because that's awful. Especially the state that club's in at the moment. But it's a case of, I would have liked to see Postecoglou, and that's not because he's doing well at Tottenham. I liked him as a manager, and that's the discussion we have every week, that I want him to do well, but I don't want Tottenham to do well.
Yep.
But he's not going to leave that job. But I think that sort of manager would have fitted us quite well. Other than that, it's a bit like, who do you get in?
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone who's available. I think we could end up with a Graham Potter type manager. And again, when it's good, it's going to be really good. But when it's bad, it's going to be the same as it is now. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Just thinking of Graham Potter, because I think he would be my choice, obviously, given the time he had at Brighton. Was obviously pulling up trees and gave a bit of stability to Brighton when he was there. And I think that with the Chelsea job, unfortunately, we said it at the time, that I think that was one of those job opportunities that was too good to turn down, but at the same time was one position too soon for him. Obviously, Chelsea were in a bit of a state at that particular point anyway when he took over. So I think there would be less pressure on him at West Ham. Obviously, I know there was always going to be the kind of winning pressure, because the last thing you want is your fans to get on your back if you start putting together a bad run of fixtures or whatever. But finishing not 12, finishing top 10 to top 6 to top 4. I would say there's an increased pressure for the likes of your top 6 to finish within that top 4. And if you miss out on that, then you could knowingly expect that you're going to get the sack. But if you're finishing in the top half of the Premier League, when, let's face it, West Ham over the course of the last few seasons, I'm specifically last season, where you were kind of down in the dumps a bit, but you knew your priorities lay elsewhere in the Conference League. So I would say there's less expectation for a manager to do, or achieve those heights, if that makes sense. Yeah,
and I'm not saying that we. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we should be finishing top 4, top 6, but I think we have the squad to be able to do that if they're utilised properly.
Yeah.
My only concern with Graham Potter, I like the man. I like his philosophy about football and about running a football club and nurturing youngsters and bringing them through and future planning. Okay, if we get rid of this player, we need to have this player that's ready to come in. And the scouting network that he built at Brighton was very good. But my biggest concern is when he was at Brighton, they did it. They did play really well at points, but they also went through games where they went 4 or 5 games without scoring. And at Chelsea, he had a similar problem. The build-up play was really good at points, and it was like, wow, this team is on fire, but they just couldn't score, and that's what ultimately cost him his job. And to bring him in to our squad, I think we would have the same. We would have some beautiful passing football, we'd have some beautiful skill. But we haven't got a now-and-out striker. We've got Antonio, who is our top goal scorer, but he's a winger, and he drifts out wide, and he plays really well. He goes past players, he puts in decent crosses, but then there's no one in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those that we need to go and buy an out-and-out striker. We got rid of Skamaka because he fell out with David Moyes because he didn't want to be isolated in the box for 90 minutes on his own. And actually, he's a good striker. Same with Haller. Didn't like his work ethic, but he put the ball into his feet in the box. He's scoring a goal. Mm-hmm. He's proved that. He's done it since he's left. Same with Skamaka. Same sort of player. Bit of a better work rate than Haller, but you've given the the ball in the box to his feet, he's getting it at least on target. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But to bring someone into our squad without a striker, with an aging squad, we've got some promising youngsters, but it's like, who's gonna really do that unless you play with that sort of false nine? Let the wingers, let Bowen, let Kudus, let Benrahma run into the box, and have a Paqueta that's pulling out the defence. I really don't know, but it could be interesting times.
Yes, yeah.
I would be happy if we got rid of Moyes. If they went to Kevin Nolan till January, you've got the reins. You've got the next 2 months, and one of two things will happen. You're going to do really well. We're going to give you the job for the rest of the season, or we're going to bring in someone else just before the January transfer window.
Yep.
I wouldn't be unhappy with that because he's the one that does the set pieces. He's the one that's up giving player instructions. He's the one that's shouting at people. He's the one that shows the passion. So it's like, let him have a go.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving on, obviously Arsenal played Sheffield United. It was one of these games, obviously, after the, I would dare say, slip up against Chelsea last weekend. I wouldn't say I was apprehensive about this game at all because Sheffield United have been an absolutely torrid time. Managed to keep us fairly quiet for the first half. Obviously, we went in at half-time 1-0 up, and then they absolutely fell apart in the second half and ended up winning 5-0. Goals from Eddie Nketiah, scored his first Premier League hat-trick, but it's not his first senior hat-trick. Scored a hat-trick in the League Cup, I believe. Good to see him on the score sheet. Obviously, Jesus come off in the Champions League game, I want to say, against Sevilla. And obviously, I don't know how long he's out for, but it was certainly too short for this weekend. So Nketiah gets the nod. And I've got to say, his finishing was absolutely unbelievable. Was a bit of a fox in the box, a bit of a goal poacher, but then scored, I would say, a worldie. I think worldie's a little bit too generous. 25 yards out. Managed to stick it in the side netting of the post. But I think it just goes to show, I suppose, how disorganised that Sheffield United are currently at the moment. Not quite sure where Paul Heckingbottom goes with this team. They're just kind of a little bit all over the place, conceding goals for fun. I think they've conceded something stupid like 19 goals already this season.
20.
How many?
29.
Oh, 29. I was only slightly out.
In 10 games.
Yeah, that's a bit of a poor return, but good to see Tommy Yasso on the score sheet and Fabio Vieira on the score sheet as well. I think we can kind of put that game to bed, but just some note or something I've noticed over the course of this season, and just something I wanted to get your opinion on, really. For Aaron Ramsdale, obviously we knew why he was omitted for the squad for the game against Chelsea, because he's just given birth, or his wife has just given birth to a baby. But I want to know what your thoughts would be. Obviously, given his position, he came in as the number 2 behind Bernd Leno. Bernd Leno made a few mistakes, and Aaron Ramsdale pushed him. He obviously showed that intensity there to push for the number 1 spot, and was very quickly given his opportunity. I think over the course of the last 2 seasons, obviously we had the All or Nothing documentary, just missed out on the Champions League places for last year, and then obviously he was, I would say, outstanding last year. There was a couple of mistakes. At fault for a couple of the goals that were conceded to concede our position at the top spot. However, overall, I don't think he'd done that bad. And when you've got someone coming in on loan, I appreciate that you want the best there to push your keepers or push each other. But I'm just wondering how you'd be feeling if you were Ramsdale being put behind David Raya, certainly in the Champions League games as well as the Premier League games.
I think when you're playing at the top level, which Arsenal are again at the moment, I think that you have to expect that one mistake could cost you your position in the squad.
Yep.
Um, Now the goalkeeper position is the hardest, I think, out of all the positions, because there is only one. So if you're keeping down number one position at any level, I think you muck up, you have a bad game, you're going to be looking over your shoulder because there is going to be always going to be one or two people chomping at the bit to take your spot. If you play midfield, you've got four, possibly five positions, maybe six, depending on the system you're playing, that you could go. So there's a lot more opportunity there. I think so. Ramsdale, when he came in, I said if he was good, I'd eat my hat. I think he's good. Well, I don't think he suits your style of football. I don't think he suits modern football with that playing out from the back, playing to the goalkeeper's feet. Very much how Arsenal play, how Manchester City play. However, I think he's a phenomenal shot stopper.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his mistakes last year came more from playing out with his feet. I think Raya is more composed. I don't think he's much better in that terms, but I think he's more composed, and that comes with experience, maybe. He's a few years older. But for me, Aaron Ramsdale's coming into Arsenal. You come very, very close last year to winning a title with him in goal. I think if he's not getting any of the games, he'll probably be playing in the Carabao Cup, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But if he's not getting Champions League games, he's not getting Premier League games, and he's back to cup goalkeeper, I would be saying, right, with all due respect, I want to move because I'm good enough to play every week. And he's at that precarious point in his career. He's not a youngster anymore, but he's not an elder statesman of the game. He's sort of at that moment where he's coming into where should be his prime. He's what, 23, 24?
Yeah, yeah.
You think the next 6 years for a footballer are your prime years? I know some goalkeepers go longer, but between 24 and 30, I need to be playing first team football. I'm good enough to play first team football in the Premier League. I mean, he was unbelievable. He got relegated twice in a row, didn't he? But how many saves did he make in those seasons against teams who are getting drumming every week? You put him in a good squad. He's done really well. Yes, he made a few mistakes. I think every goalkeeper does in a season. He's just come at the times where they were pivotal rather than the game where it didn't matter. I imagine he would have learned from that and grown from that as a person. But I think he needs to move because I don't think he's going to get number one over Raya. I think Raya is the better goalkeeper out of the two, and especially for Arsenal as a system of football. But if he was to come somewhere like West Ham, or go to a Brentford or where it's not so dependent on playing out from the back, it's stop the goal, boot the ball up pitch, I think he would thrive.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed because I think I can speak on behalf of all Arsenal fans. We get this, what do you call it, necessity for competition, and obviously if one of them gets injured, then obviously you can understand it. But for when David Raya come in, it seemed like, and I'll be honest, for his first couple of games, he did seem fairly calm, fairly level-headed. But over the course of, I'd say, the last month or so, we saw him have a bit of a wobble in our Champions League game against Lons, I think it was. And then you had Man City. There was a couple of nervy moments within that game. Granted, we ended up winning that game. However, there was some nervous passing out the back, caught out of position a couple of times, which obviously bit us in the arse when we played Chelsea. He was definitely at fault for one of those goals from being out of position, albeit it was a bit of a lucky cross / shot if he wants to try and claim that as a shot. But had he not been in that position, Mudryk probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to, and B, possibly would have been in a position to score had Sterling got on the end of it, if that was a cross, if that makes sense. So I get that obviously people are going to make mistakes. No one plays a 10 out of 10 at every game, but Um, it just seems really strange, unless they've had some sort of falling out or something. It just seems strange that you wouldn't stick with the what's the word? Stick with the whatever the word is. The team bonding, team. But you wouldn't mess with the morale if that makes sense.
Okay.
But that's obviously just my personal opinion. But anyway, moving swiftly on, as I said, there's quite a few bits to cover. It was the Manchester derby yesterday as well. A big game, I think, for both clubs because Manchester City were on a bit of a, I don't want to say downward trajectory because they never are, but had a bit of a blip over the course. I think in the League Cup, lost against us.
Yep.
And yeah, back to winning ways, I think it was last weekend. But obviously coming up in a Manchester derby, form goes out the window. Manchester United, I think, have turned up over the course of the last couple of seasons. We kind of predicted a bit of a drubbing for Manchester United because, let's face it, they've been, on the most part, awful for already this season. But yeah, Manchester City, very comfortable winners. Didn't look like coming out of second gear. I would say it looked fairly comfortable. But we've spoken about this. I'd say a couple of weeks ago with Ten Hag. What do you think the issues are at Manchester United? Do you think it's the players not understanding the manager's philosophies, or do you think it's time for him to go?
So no, I think Ten Hag is a really good manager. I think he's the right person for that club. He's gone through a lot of adversity already.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been a little bit unlucky with injuries. You think Martinez and Varane both out injured. Varane's coming back. But you think when your starting defence is Lindelof, Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, it's going to be a hard time anyway.
Yep.
They are in a period of transition, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've said it a couple of times this season, the end of last season, that there is a big shadow and a big question mark over Manchester United. And I don't know if you see Gary Neville having a go at Jamie Carragher, telling him to listen about things. I think he pretty much echoed what I've been saying of no one knows whether they're coming or going. You can't do a job, or that's a lie. The people at Manchester United, I think, are doing their best in terms of staffing and things like that. But when constantly in the media you're hearing about Jim Ratcliffe coming in and he's going to own 25% and he's going to change things and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And one of the things, the stories that keeps coming out is he's going to change all the playing stuff, or not all the players, but all the sports staff around the club. You've got then a whole club of people, coaches, managers, scouting, medical, all going, I might not have a job tomorrow. So who knows when this deal is going to go through or if it's going to go through. And if it does, is he going to change things? Is he not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can run a club with that holding over you, because I'm not being funny. I think you could tell anyone, "Oh, you might lose your job tomorrow because we might be taken over." We probably are going to be taken over, or at least part of it, and there definitely will be changes when that happens. And then keep telling them you're probably going to lose your job. I think people will always try their hardest. But with that looming over you, that's going to take the majority of focus. Why am I doing this? Why should I be looking elsewhere? I shouldn't be putting 100% effort. Should I even be here at all? Should I quit before I get sacked? And I think you can't run a club like that. It has a bleeding out effect on everything, which I think we're seeing. Because if the staff are saying that, there'll be chatter there. And then the players will hear that and there'll be chatter there, because they're both getting media sources. They've all got agents that they're saying, "Oh, actually, yeah, we've got a bit of inside information. This is going to happen, then that's going to happen. So why am I trying? Because this boss ain't going to be here for much longer because he gets sacked. So why am I trying?" And I think you've seen that with Van Gaal. It happened. You've seen it with Mourinho. We see it with Ollie. We're now seeing it with Ten Hag. Some Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, take it out, but Van Gaal, Mourinho, there's some world class managers. Do you know what I mean? They've been around the block, not silly, but I think the mix of the question mark and the cloud that brings, still being over the club, that should have been done and dusted in pre-season. The Glazers are greedy. They're businessmen at the end of the day. They want most money they can possibly get, and I totally understand that. But also, they've got to realise this is hurting the club overall, because actually more things are coming out. Not only is this bad, but Old Trafford needs rebuilding. It's leaking it more every week. Every time it's raining, more and more fans are saying, "Oh, I get wet because the roof leaks." It's meant to be like the biggest club in the world commercially, or one of the. How can you roof leak at your stadium? Do you know what I mean? But I think they need to either go, Ratcliffe's not coming in until the summer, or get it done sort of this side of this
Christmas.
week.
All right.
Well, I don't think I think you do it till Christmas. I think that's it. You're done. You're not getting in the Champions League. You're not qualifying for the Champions League, and I think you're actually going to end up fighting a relegation battle. And then you go, oh, we're going to change it, and by that point, everyone's going, I want out because I don't want to be part of the side that got Manchester United in a relegation battle. But I think that, I mean, Casemiro the other day come out and said he thinks he made a mistake joining Manchester United because he's used to how Real Madrid run. And it's very much, this is our aim, this is what we're doing. Manchester United doesn't have an aim. And I think that says it all.
Yeah.
And if you're senior players and the players that you're looking at to go, this is, I know he's older, but this is sort of guy we need to build this club around and mentor the youngsters. And he's going, this club has, something's wrong. It's not right. They don't know what they're doing. Then that again is going to bleed out. And sorry, I'm ranting about it a little bit. I don't even like Manchester United, but it's one of those that they keep harping back. Manchester United fan keeps harping back to Alex Ferguson. Alex Ferguson did this. Alex Ferguson did that. Alex Ferguson was the best manager, in my opinion, ever. His last season, he took a team that should have finished 7th, which David Moyes did with him the season after, and won the league. No other manager would have done that. And done that for such a long time, but he ran the club from top to bottom. He was the last say. That's not how it runs now. They've got directors of football, they've got technical director, they've got a footballing director. There's lots of boxes to be ticked by lots of people, because the Glazers want the final say. It's their club, their money, they want the say. And in some senses, I think they would be good to go put a manager in like Ten Hag, which they've done. Say to him, your club, here's your budget, here's your thing, this is your minimum expectation, you don't meet it, you're sacked.
Yep.
And then take a step back. Don't go in the papers, don't link with selling the club, don't do this, don't do that. If anything, come out with club statement saying this is not happening until at least the summer, end of. Because it stops the media circus, it stops the question marks, and Erik Ten Hag is our manager. He's running the club. He's making all the decisions. He's got this person who are working with him. We have nothing else to do with it.
Yep.
And I think at that point, players would go, "Oh, that's the boss," and buy back in. Don't know. That's the way I see it from an outside perspective. But what do you think? I'll stop.
You're right. We saw that. Well, I suppose it could have been attributed when Chelsea and the whole Abramovich thing was going on. Obviously, after the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, there was a lot of people that was kind of speculating with all of that negative press and Abramovich being sanctioned, etc. They wouldn't be able to fund the club and all sorts. So you can see the kind of damage that was being done at that particular point. So you're right. We don't know for definite, but it could absolutely be a contributing factor to how poor they are, or how poorly they've been playing, because obviously you've got all these things going on. But I personally would say that the issue is rooted deeper than that. Obviously, it's well known. Last season, I think Cristiano Ronaldo come out with a very famous interview with Piers Morgan, basically saying how poorly the club's run. We've seen Jadon Sancho being on the back end of a bit of an issue at the moment, and if you've got that sort of hostility between club and player,
Yep.
who's to say that it's not going to then obviously transpire into further players down the line? Obviously, that I think Ronaldo mentioned about their training facilities that haven't been updated in so long. You've obviously mentioned the issues with the stadium, etc. So I've been of the age that we are. Obviously, I'm only slightly older than you. We did see the glory years of Manchester United, if you will.
Yeah.
Certainly under the Alex Ferguson era, and Manchester United was a place that you never really wanted to go to because it was a bit of a fortress. They had one of the most amazing defence. Well, in fact, I'm not even going to break it down. One of the most amazing squads over the course of the 90s to the early noughties.
Yeah.
In fact, probably into the late noughties as well.
Yeah, I think like 2008 squad. I want to say I can't say off the top of my head, but phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, they went from that class of '92 sort of dispersing and leaving to then you had Ferdinand, Vidic, Evra, and someone else in defence. But you know what I mean? They've always had a star-studded squad. They've always had players where you go, God, he's a good player.
Yeah.
And now you look at it and you go,
Wow, where
Rashford
Workhorse on loan.
Yeah, I mean Rashford on his day, you go, oh, good player. But then the other 8 days that he's playing, you go, probably he's probably a good bench player, good squad player. And then who do you look at? You think their top goal scorer is Scott McTominay, who I think's a blinding player. To be fair, you get him to do that job in the middle of the pitch. I want you to run around, and I want you to put in every tackles. I want you to get forward into the box late. Perfect. Is he a top 4 player? No. Is he a hard tackling, give it some effort player? Yes. But he's your top goal scorer. He's a defensive midfielder. What are you playing at?
Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of issues going on in Manchester United at the moment. And I want to say it's funny because obviously you just, I'm aiming this purely at the, dare I say it, radicalised Manchester United fans that do still harp on about the glory days and all this sort of stuff when stark reality over the course of the last 10 years or so they've been absolutely dog shit. And Manchester City have been running the show pretty much ever since, with the exception of Liverpool as well. And I think when you compare the Manchester United squad that is currently there, you're right, they have got some outstanding players, and I think partly the manager could be to blame on this, but obviously not knowing what goes on behind closed doors. And I think possibly something like an all or nothing documentary would be good for a lot of clubs, so you can see the understandings of it. Because I mean, going back to 2 seasons ago, when that documentary was released, it was the beginning of last season for the season before, when you could see what was going on behind closed doors. I think a lot of Arsenal fans who were giving Edu and Mikel Arteta a load of grief or whatever, saying that this isn't good enough. Being able to see what goes on behind closed doors, it gives you kind of an appreciation for what actually goes on with a football club. Granted, they're not going to show you everything because the documentary is going to be far too big. We would have seen the football game, so there's no point in showing highlights of those or whatever. But certainly for me, I wasn't for any time that I remember being an Arteta out person, because you could see that there were issues at the club, obviously with the whole Aubameyang thing, etc. So I do think that they do have similarities between the transition period that they're going through, and let's face it, they are two years potentially behind us, and it's taken a bit of a slog. So I think Arteta's in his 4th season with us now, and we have seen, luckily, the Deadwood go in that have been hanging over us for quite a while. Contracts ripped up, and we are now seeing the likes of Saka, Martinelli, who else? Ben White, Ramsdale, all committing their futures to the club because they believe in the project. So yeah, I'm looking at the Manchester United squad. I think they are going to struggle with keeping up with the likes of the top six. So definitely see them outside of the top six this year. When you look at how well Spurs are doing, how well City are doing, how well we're doing, Liverpool are kind of clawing themselves back into it. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for Manchester United. Obviously, I'll never say it's a probability or it's impossible, because football's a funny game. Every team that's in the top six could end up going on such a shit streak that we see the table change even more so than it has done already this season. But yeah, strange times for Manchester United, and I think we will see Ten Hag gone before the end of the season, if I'm being completely honest.
It wouldn't surprise me. But when you think about they're eighth at the moment with 15 points. They've won 5, lost 5. So you think they're only. I know Aston Villa are starting to pull away as well now. That pack's starting to drift a little bit. But they're 7 points behind Villa, 8 points behind Liverpool, and 9 points behind Arsenal. It's not it's not a huge gap at the moment. No. It's recoverable.
Yep.
But they've got to sort out some big issues and know what they're doing. If you have Varane, Martinez, and Casemiro all come back at the same time and put them in, bosh, that's what we're doing. I think they'll be all right. I don't think it's a bit like Chelsea. I don't think they get relegated. I think they're too good to get relegated, but they could end up languishing the wrong end of the table if they're not careful.
Yeah.
But I think if they have some key players come back, Højlund looks good. Rasmus Højlund. He's the unfinished article. He was when they brought him in. He's definitely one for the future. But he's looking promising. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's putting in the effort, and you need to keep him putting in the effort by backing it up with the rest of the squad. So, yeah, get rid of a few bad eggs. Maybe they might turn it around.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just a quick quiz question for you.
Yep.
I mentioned the 08 season. Manchester United won the league with 90 points. They also won the Champions League. But who were their front four? Who were their attackers in that season?
Rooney.
Yes.
I want to say Park.
Park Ji-sung was there, but not listed as an attacker, more of a midfielder. This is the same season Federico Makeda come on and scored those couple of goals.
Mate, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
Dimitar Berbatov.
Yep.
Cristiano Ronaldo. And Carlos Tevez.
Oh, Jesus. With
Park Ji-sung, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, and Michael Carrick behind them. And then you had Edwin van der Sar in goal. Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Patrice Evra. Gary Neville was a captain. He played my half it. Raphael played the other half. But you said like Wes Brown, John O'Shea, Johnny Evans played 2 games. He's back at the club. That's the season they sold Gerard Piqué. Danny Welbeck made an appearance. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They're a phenomenal squad, and just when you're comparing what they've got now to what they had then, it's like going, oh, well, do you remember that time that Manchester City were in League 2? Let's compare that squad to now. Which is better?
Yeah, definitely. As I said, strange time for Manchester United as it stands at the moment. Like I said, I genuinely think they'll finish outside the top 6 this year, 100%. Happy to be proved wrong, but with their current run of form, I would say, it's going to be, the gap's going to be too big to close down. But happy to be proved wrong. Right, let's move on to the main topic of today. Obviously, as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, the Ballon d'Or is currently underway. There are some notable mentions for the men's category, and obviously we have got the women's category as well. There's too many names to mention everyone. Some standouts. Obviously, I have got the full list here. Who have we got? Jude Bellingham, Benzema, Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan, Haaland, Harry Kane, Lewandowski, who else? Mbappe, Messi, Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, Rodri, half of the Manchester City squad in there, Vinicius Junior and Mohamed Salah. So that's some of the names to be mentioned. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. I know we briefly spoke about this before the start of the podcast, but apparently Messi has been tipped to win the Ballon d'Or again for an 8th time in his career. Obviously, he did win the World Cup last year, which was one of the ones that was kind of missing off his CV. He's won the Copa America, now won the World Cup, countless Champions Leagues, countless titles. Do you think? I already know the answer to this. I'm just looking forward to you going on a bit of a rant. Do you think that winning the World Cup would be justifiable for Messi to win the Ballon d'Or this year?
If you're going on that basis, Alexis McAllister was more pivotal to Argentina win the World Cup.
Yep.
So there were more. Emilio Martinez was more pivotal to Argentina winning the World Cup. I know he's won an award tonight already, and he's on the short list. I think the Ballon d'Or is looked at now, not previously. I think previously it was a very prestigious award. I think now it's looked at as a marketer. Who can we market the most money off of? The season that Messi had last year and Ronaldo had last year, you couldn't put them above Benzema. I think any other season, I think they still would have given it to one of them. But Benzema was on fire last year. Do you know what I mean? I think if he wins it tonight, I think you have to put Ballon d'Or and FIFA in the same category as the boxing world, where you know it's fixed. And I'm talking about the Fury and Ngannou fight, where Ngannou deserved to win. But you couldn't have your world champion lose to someone who's not part of the sport, never had a professional fight before. But that's a different subject altogether. I think there are much more deserving people in that list this year to win that award. I know you can't go on current form, because current form you have to go. It's got to go to Bellingham, because he's played well at Dortmund. He did have a good World Cup as well. He was one of the more exciting players for us, and he's gone to Real Madrid and he's got 15 goals. Is it 15 goals in 15 games? No, it's Harry Kane. But he's got. Do you know what I mean? He's their top goal scorer. He's exciting. He's scoring goals. Then you have to look at Haaland. Coming to the Premier League, first season, scored 37 goals in the league.
Yep.
He scored more hat-tricks in the Premier League than Cristiano Ronaldo has now in one season. He's almost in a. I think he's already in the top 10 for goal scorers in the Champions League. So you think actually how, I know it's not all about goal scoring, but how's Messi had a better year than he has? All right, he's won the World Cup. Haaland won the treble.
Yep.
And I think they will put Mbappe's name in there because he's marketable, but he's had a shit season, I think, overall. I think if you look at it, you could say the same for Ruben Diaz, pivotal in Manchester City win the treble. You've got Odegaard in there, transformed Arsenal last season, was pivotal in them pushing to right the way to where they got. I'm trying to think who else is in the list for it. Martinez, again, you could say he's should be above Messi for it, because I think he was more pivotal in the shootouts, and for his club has done really well. Lewandowski's just another level. Salah again had a decent season. Luka Modric, one of the most consistent players. then you looks at like the likes of who I think definitely should be up there in the top 5. Kim Min Jae, played for Napoli, now plays for Bayern Munich. The defender, phenomenal season last year, deserving of some recognition. I think there's just so many people that should be above Lionel Messi, but if he will definitely be in the top 3 because he's marketable. But I think they need to tread very carefully because it just makes a mockery of the whole award.
Yep.
And anyone who's ever won it. Do you know what I mean? It takes away from winning that and being crowned. You were the best player in this year.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, obviously he's moved to the States now, isn't he? With into Miami,
and they've done worse since he's been there.
Well, I was just going to say, it wouldn't surprise me if this is potentially one of the last seasons. I mean, I know he's going to be earning an absolute fortune, and even just being around football, he will earn an absolute fortune. So he's obviously going to stay in it as long as possible. But it wouldn't surprise me if this is like the one last hurrah sort of thing for arguably one of the best players that's ever graced the game. And you're right. It's there were better players. I think obviously just given the previous status of how influential a player he is. You're right. There were other players within that Argentina team which did contribute more. It's so frustrating. It really is frustrating if he does win it on that basis.
I wouldn't be upset if they gave him like a career achievement award because he's won like a Grand Slam he's won everything now. Yep. There's not a trophy. All right, okay, he hasn't won the MLS, but he's won their FA Cup style trophy already. I don't think anyone would be upset with him winning an award for career achievement, but for him to win the Ballon d'Or and say he was the best player this year, or in the last year, would be a joke. What I would say is the women's Ballon d'Or has been announced.
Yes.
Anita Bonmati, Barcelona midfielder, has won.
Yes. And she was actually one of the favourites to win it. So that kind of worries me a little bit.
Here's the thing, right? Messi is not in my EAFC ultimate team, but Matty was going to be, but I can't afford it. So I mean that's squad planning for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'll be completely honest, and I suppose ignorance is that I couldn't tell you much about women's football. Obviously, being a father, I don't really have much time to sit down and even watch Arsenal as it stands at the moment, which is frustrating me a little bit. But obviously, I love my family dearly. But being able to watch some of the Arsenal games, it's a bit of a chore. So I will put that down to my own ignorance, but I would say self-defense a little bit to having the family life doesn't make it always possible to watch women's football. But congratulations to the winners of the award so far. There will be, I'm not sure we'll be still recording at the point that the Ballon d'Or is actually announced. Well, we may be. Watch this space. But Manchester City. So some of the awards that have been given out. Manchester City have won the Team of the Year or the Men's Team of the Year. Barcelona Women's Team have won the Women's Team of the Year. Haaland has won the Gerd Muller Trophy. What else have we got going on here? Martinez, as you mentioned, has already won an award. He's won the Yashin Winner Trophy. What else have we got? Vinicius Jr. has won the Socrates Award. And Jude Bellingham, you mentioned at the start, has won the Copper Trophy. So congratulations to all the winners. We will, as I said, keep an eye on it over the course of the next 5 or 10 minutes or so, just in case the announcement is made. But we have got some predictions to make, Ian.
Yeah,
it is Carabao Cup time. I nearly said Carling Cup. Jesus, that's showing me age. Yes, we have the Carabao Cup coming up on Wednesday. Arsenal versus West Ham. Brentford are taking on Arsenal on Saturday. No, Brentford are taking on West Ham on Saturday, and Newcastle have host Arsenal.
Yep.
So we'll go through some predictions as we do, and then we'll do a recap of where we are with the predictions that we made last week. So West Ham versus Arsenal. We've already touched on it very briefly. You think potentially it could be a loss for West Ham. So give us your thoughts on the game.
I think we're going to play. Obviously, Alvarez and Paqueta can play in this competition. Emerson's back, so he can play in this one. So I think we will go full strength. I think we'd be stupid not to. But I think with how bad we've been recently and the fact that we concede possession a lot, I can't see us getting anything out of this. I think Arsenal are starting to turn it on a little bit this season as well, even with, say, Eddie Nketiah coming in. He's going to be full of confidence after that. So if he plays again, he's going to be a fox in a box. Simple football, as I said. Arsenal like a little bit of simple football, pass it through the defence. I can't see anything but an Arsenal win. And that's a really sad place to be at, because I'd like to say we'd give you a game. I think we might catch you on the counter with a silly mistake, maybe. But I think it's going to be 3-1 Arsenal.
Okay. Do you know what? I tend to agree with you, but I think we're going to see a lot of squad rotation. I keep saying tomorrow, on Wednesday. I think we are going to see a lot of squad rotation because I think we've got arguably one of our more difficult fixtures just recently, obviously against Newcastle at the weekend. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see the likes of Declan Rice rested, Martinelli rested, Saka rested, and you see the fringe players coming through with the likes of Cedric Suarez playing in this game. I completely forgot he was still in the team. So I would say a heavily rotated squad for us. I would still like to put us down for the win, but I think it'll be a lot closer. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Arsenal on that one. Okay. Moving on to Saturday, you are the earlier kickoff. Brentford versus West Ham. What are your thoughts on that one?
Brentford aren't playing, so they've got a longer rest with their next game. They've won their last two, 3-0 against Burnley and 2-0 against Chelsea. I think that although they're below us in the table, I actually think they're playing really well at the minute. I don't think they're having a bad season, considering you've got their goalkeeper, their striker is banned. I think they've played really well as a squad. I think Thomas Frank is doing a phenomenal job with them, and I think they're going to thump us. I think that's going to be a 3-0.
Okay. See, they have been blowing a little bit hot and cold for me. And I think you mentioned earlier about David Moyes pulling out one of these results, and I think this could potentially be it. I'm going to go for 2-1 to West Ham on this one. I think, okay. Yeah, I quite fancy a West Ham win on that one. So moving very swiftly on, Newcastle versus Arsenal. Do you know what? This is one of the games, as I mentioned, I'm kind of dreading a little bit because Newcastle, I think they had a bit of a poor start to the season, but have kind of recently turned it on again, as you mentioned. I really don't know where to go with this one. Obviously, we're playing away. Newcastle caused us some issues over the course of the last couple of years since they've had the financial backing and Eddie Howe as the appointed manager. I think we are going to win this one. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Arsenal again. It's kind of a fairly safe result, but I would like to see us pick up the win on that one.
I mean, Newcastle got they're playing Manchester United in the cup as well, so they've got a difficult, potentially a difficult game if Manchester United turn up. I think a big key point to this is Tonali's banned now, isn't he, for 10 months? And I think maybe we'll cover this next week, but I think he's got off really lightly with that, considering Tony's was 8 months.
Yep.
Tonali was betting on games that he was in. And I know they were all to win, for their team to win. But you're betting on games that you're directly involved in. So, but that's for another time. I think Newcastle can play really well this year. Obviously, they've got a tough run of fixtures. They've had Wolves, didn't they, the weekend?
Yep.
Played Dortmund before that. They've got to play Manchester United before they play you, and then they've got to play Dortmund again. So squad selection could be really, really something to them because they've got to win that Dortmund game to stay in the Champions League. So I think it'll be a rotated squad against United, and I think it could be a partially rotated squad against you. Not to say that makes them any easier to play against because some of their players have been playing really well. Their second stringers. I'm gonna go 1-1 with this game.
Okay.
I think it could be one of those that turns out to be a little bit boring, but I think there could be goals in it.
Yep.
So 1-1 for me.
Okay, perfect. And then just recapping last week's scores very quickly. So just to recap for you guys as well, we get 1 point for the correct result, 3 points for the correct score. Arsenal versus Sheffield United, you had 3-0, I had 4-1. So the score was 5-0, so a point each. West Ham versus Everton, you went for 1-1, I went for 2-2. Score was 1-0 to Everton, so no points. And then Man United versus Man City, both had City to win. You went for 5-1, I went for 3-1. The score was 3-0, so it's a point each. So 2 points each for the week. Hasn't done in much in terms of the season scores. It's 19 points each now, so it's still fairly even. With still a lot to play for. So yes, I am just going to check very, very quickly if there's been any announcements. No announcements yet, so I'm sure we will
cover that next week.
Yeah, we will talk about it next week. But other than that, have you got anything else you want to mention for this week's podcast?
No.
No. Okay, I am just going to give a very quick mention to this incident. For some of you that do know, I do love my ice hockey, and there was a very unfortunate incident at the weekend, very freak accident. A guy called Adam Johnson who joined the Nottingham Panthers from the United States, very gifted player. From some of the interviews and stuff that I've been reading, sadly lost his life this weekend. So thoughts and sympathy go out to friends, family, fellow players, and anyone that was affected by that incident. So, yeah, that's
for the uneducated outside of football. Not Adam Johnson that used to play for Stoke of Manchester City.
Yes,
different geezer.
Yeah, good. Not as rare as we thought as footballers changing careers going into ice hockey. We have seen Arsenal's very own Peter Cech play for the Chelmsford Chieftains last season. But anyway, yes, on a more serious note, thoughts and sympathy go out to friends, family, loved ones, etc. It was a horrific freak accident and very sad to see. But yes, if you have stuck with us this far, thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We hope you do enjoy the content, and we will see you next week.
Sorry for ranting. Bye.
I'm not. Bye.